Mummy.
Yeah.
Mom? You know what she said? She said, she said, he's not going without me. Mom's oh, wow. Yeah. Mom's doing the same thing. Mom would think. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Hanging a coat somewhere?
I'll take your coat here. Your card can go in here
Okay.
if you want, and the jacket we have here.
I'm gonna keep it with you for now. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can make your way to the shop. If you want to sign up, just go there. That'd be great. Just hold up.
Okay, thank you.
I am of that side.
Yeah.
He's already been sent.
Right here.
Okay, what's your name?
Kids.
Yeah.
Well, and he's being sent.
Yeah, there we go.
We're a day or two.
There's a guest room to sign, and if you'd like me to hang up your jacket in the closet.
Thanks. Actually,
Actually, okay.
very convenient. It's unfortunate.
There's a guest room to sign over there.
We're going over Friday.
DJ, I'd like to make my own errand. Our son's coming too.
There's a guest room to sign.
You're in White Rock?
Yes.
Yes, we've done the, we've driven Sandy out there.
Yes.
Oh, we dropped you off too.
Yeah.
What's your copy?
What
did you say?
There's a guest room to sign over there.
please stand? Thank you.
Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. I'm Major Linda Richardson, and it's my privilege to be with you this morning. We gather together in love, in remembrance, in faith, to celebrate the life of Nelson Nicholas Drozdowich. Now, this service is being live streamed. But before I tell you who all is coming, let me mention what was mentioned to everyone else in the family room, that if you happen to have your phone with you, you don't want to be the one whose phone goes off. So if you would like to just put it on silent, we will be good to go. And so who is joining us this morning? We are being live streamed in northern British Columbia, Australia, the United States, and Hawaii. And so from all the various time zones, we welcome everyone. We come with grateful hearts this morning for a life well lived, a life marked by wisdom, generosity, and kindness. And while there is the physical feeling of an ache for Nelson's absence, we also rejoice in the warmth and the love and the legacy he leaves behind. And so today is a time to remember, to give thanks, to be comforted by shared stories, by one another, and by the hope that we hold in faith. And so may this time together bring peace to your hearts and honor to his life. To everyone here and watching through live streaming, you are all warmly welcomed. 1930. Some may have been here, others were not. But in that year, the world became a better place with the birth of Nelson. Now, to us who were in Canada, in that year of his birth, William Lyon Mackenzie King was the Liberal Prime Minister of Canada. And in Nelson's year of birth, the electric kettle was launched, Twinkies were invented, and to Canadians, just so you know, gas was 20 cents a gallon. Now, time would pass, as time always does, and Nelson would live in this world for 95 years, 4 months, and 28 days. In this space of remembrance, we will celebrate his life, a life well lived. We will hear the memories that bind you together and the legacy that will endure through the passage of time. Would you pray with me? Father God, we invite your presence, your peace, your calm, and hope for the future. In your love, you have fathomed the depth of human love and loss. We've come to remember Nelson. You knew him by his name, just as you know each of us by ours. Thank you for the wonder of his life. Thank you that in your word you say that to be absent from the body is to be present with you. In your unending mercy, turn the darkness of death into the dawn of new life, and the sorrow of parting into the joy of heaven. Amen. Life is a journey. We're all on the journey. But it can be also described that life is like a journey on a train. Nelson boarded the train on that 28th day in July of 1930, met his parents, believing they would always travel by his side. However, at some station, we expect some will step down from the train, leaving us on the journey alone, but never all the way. As time goes by, other people will board the train, and they'll be significant. Siblings, friends, children, and even the love of our life. The ride will be full of joy, sorrow, fantasy, expectations, hopes, hellos, goodbyes, and farewells. Now, success on the journey of life depends on having a good relationship with all the other passengers, requiring that Nelson give the best of himself, because we are all on this ride together. But there's a mystery. And the mystery to everyone is we do not know at which station we will step down. And so we are asked to live in the best way that we can. Love, forgive, and offer the best of who we are. It's important because when the time comes for us to step down and leave our seat empty, that we would leave behind beautiful memories for those who will continue to travel on the train of life without us. On Friday, December 26, 2025, Nelson stepped down from the train, leaving behind his family and all of you. But I'm sure Nelson would want to thank you for being one of the passengers on his train of life. Diane is going to come and share with us the eulogy.
I was being so brave. Excuse me. Good morning to everyone here in person and everyone joining us online. Thank you on behalf of my mom and the entire family for being here. I welcome you and thank you. Your presence means a great deal to us. We are here today to celebrate the life of husband, father, family friend, family member, Nelson Nicholas Drozdowich. For those of you who may not remember me, I'm Diane, the third of the 5 children in our family. And I have the honor of speaking with you today about my father. When I was tasked to put together this eulogy, I had concerns about what to say, given Dad was a soft-spoken soul, a man who rarely voiced his opinion, somewhat of an introvert or a wallflower who did not like the spotlight. I was quite worried that there would be very few interesting stories on which we would reminisce. But of course, as you know, I'm kidding. And the fact that I got through that with a straight face is a miracle. In truth, Dad, Nelson, was larger than life. He was loud. He was outspoken. He was often opinionated and truly believed that there was a right way and a wrong way of doing things. And he definitely was not afraid to tell you so. He loved being the center of attention, engaging anyone who would listen with a never-ending supply of stories, serenading the room with songs from his past. How many times did you hear Terry Jacks? Too much wine and too much song, don't know how I got along. But in my opinion, I think that when you grow up, the youngest in a large family, as Dad did, you absolutely must sing for your supper in order to get noticed. And while this personality would occasionally rub people the wrong way, at the foundation of all the pride, occasional arrogance, and bravado was a man with a truly good heart and an intention and desire to do well by his fellow man and woman. Born and raised on a humble farm in Bakerville, Alberta, and eventually moving to Cloverdale, values of frugality and practicality were deeply instilled and stayed with Dad for a lifetime. Everything was saved or recycled, little wasted. And this makes me think of my dad's favorite jacket on the stool down there. Dad didn't buy that jacket in the Bay. He didn't buy it in Walmart. He didn't even get it from a thrift store. My dad found that jacket on the side of a road. Now, I wasn't with him, but I'm sure he had a look at that, picked it up, and said to himself, "Why, that's a perfectly good jacket." He took it home, had Mom washed it up, and he loved that jacket. He, like all the Drozdowiches, had a strong work ethic and applied himself on the family farm and beyond. As a young man, he yearned to branch out beyond the farm. He initially got a job driving an oil truck for the local co-op. However, that gift of the gab could not be contained, and he eventually made his way into real estate, where he excelled as a top realtor in his day. And yet, he maintained a love for the farm, and accordingly purchased and continued to raise his own family on the old Claiborne Road homestead from 1969 to 1991. In 1991, he sold much of that farm to a local developer, but kept a parcel of land in the back 40 where he and Mom built their retirement home and spent most of the remainder of their golden years. True, Dad worked hard most of his life, but he also believed in enjoying the best that the world and life have to offer. And accordingly, he and Mom spent many wonderful years traveling as a couple or on occasion with some of us kids. Motorhome trips across Canada and the USA, into Mexico and Costa Rica, overseas travel to Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Hawaii, Europe, and Asia, absorbing the local customs and cuisine, living like locals, and embracing the best of many cultures. At home, Dad was happiest in his backyard and garden, growing a variety of flowers and vegetables, experimenting with his homemade smokehouse, and of course, maintaining his grapevines and apple trees, all the while waging a defensive war against the bears, raccoons, and other wildlife who were determined to get their fair share of the fresh-grown goodies. Dad was certainly an energetic man, but beyond the surface personality traits that were most evident to the typical acquaintance, there were many traits of Dad that the world may not have realized or seen, but we in the family and those closest to him witnessed regularly and understood. Dad was a spiritual man, believing in a greater good for all. Dad was a caring man, caring for his wife of 74 years and his family, for his community. He provided well for his family, but also loved to share all he had with friends and even strangers. How many families new to Abbotsford, met on the street or through real estate, were invited over to join the Drozdowiches for a meal, some of them becoming lifelong friends. Dad was charitable, supporting numerous causes, most notably the juvenile diabetes, having lost his eldest child, Simone, to that cruel ailment. The Salvation Army. Every Christmas, you could be sure to find Dad and Mom manning the kettles, with Dad playing his harmonica to reward patron generosity. Cyrus Center as part of their annual Leap of Faith skydiving event. Over 14 years, and most recently last summer at age 95, he raised well over $100,000 to help the center's efforts in supporting youth at risk. Dad loved his community. He was there to support the school boards, swim club, agri fair, inmate rehabilitation, the hospital, and the church. Closer to home, you would often see him patrolling the streets that had originally been part of the family farm. He would talk to all the neighbors, share a story, a joke, or a song, offer opinions about the local issues du jour, and would proudly share the bounty of his garden in the form of flowers, vegetables, preserves, or even wine, often just arriving on people's doorsteps unsolicited. In conclusion, and speaking from my own heart, I recognize that having Dad as a husband, a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, an uncle, a cousin, a friend, or even a neighbor came with benefits, but also may have had challenges. Challenges that might have seriously frustrated some people at various times in their lives. However, I feel that we have to step above the occasional frustrating moments and embrace the sheer goodness that is Dad's legacy. He and Mom instilled rock-solid values in this family, and for that I am grateful. Their generosity ensured that their children and grandchildren all had support in continuing education and in some of life's unexpected curveballs. Dad's community-mindedness significantly shaped many aspects of our life here in Abbotsford, and his philanthropy continued to support worthy causes in Abbotsford and beyond. You know, it's funny. In my life, I must have heard his stories and songs 1,000 times, and they were retold even more frequently in recent years. But now that he's no longer with us, I think I will truly miss those stories and songs. I recall in his last hour, Dad's parting words to my husband, words that are particularly appropriate to this occasion. As Dad reached out to shake DJ's hand, he said, "You're a good man, Charlie Brown." To which now I reply on behalf of this group and beyond, "You were a good man, Nelson Drozdowich." Thank you, Dad. We love you, and we'll miss you.
Thank you, Diane. This is Nelson's Bible. Over the years, his hands held it. His fingers turned its pages. His eyes read its words. And there are words from it that I would like to share this morning that you will recognize. From 1 Corinthians 13, love is very patient and kind, never jealous or envious, never boastful or proud. Love is never haughty, selfish, or rude. Love does not demand its own way. Love is not irritable or touchy. Love does not hold grudges and will hardly notice when others do it wrong. Love is never glad about injustice, but rejoices whenever truth wins out. If you love someone, you will be loyal to them, no matter what the cost. You will always believe in them, always expect the best in them, and will always stand your ground in defending them. In life, there are three things that remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is, say it with me, love. Yes. There are two tributes that are going to be offered just now, and I'd like to invite Melissa Sue Harper to be followed by Debbie Cameron Venus.
So, I'm Melissa Sue. I'm one of Nelson's older granddaughters. So my grandpa asked me to speak to all of you today when the day came. I'm not much of a storyteller, so I'm just going to read largely. I'm not a storyteller like he was, but I knew what he was asking me to do. He was asking me to bear witness to his spirit. And in that, to his love, to his courage, and his gratitude. I'd like to invite all of us right now, from our unique perspectives, to remember our most loving memories of Nelson. And so all the different angles we're going to do that from, we're going to kind of come together and we're going to make a bit of a diamond or a star, and we're just going to love, okay? For me, the light that I'm going to remember is one of my earliest memories of my grandpa's love. When I was really young, maybe not even 4, my grandpa was the first person to teach me about how cats say I love you. So you know that really long, slow blink? Yeah, that one. After that, for as long as I can remember, every time my grandpa saw me, he would give me an I love you cat blink. So these light-filled bits that we're remembering right now together, that's the truth of a person. It's not the rough stuff that we go through. It's the light that shines through while we're going through that. So let's just stay with that, eh? You cannot deny that my grandfather was a force. He was a force of nature. He was a force to be reckoned with. But the strength of that force, that may have resulted in some complicated relationships, but that force was love. And it's love that drove Grandpa. It drove him to fiercely defend and care for his family. It drove him to generously care for his neighbors and his community. Nelson was a very sensitive soul. As a man of his generation, it took a lot of courage to allow himself to be seen as sensitive and to feel so deeply. And I really do mean that. I know, guys, there was a lot of bravado, but it was because he felt so much, right? Nelson was bravely vulnerable with us, and he openly shared his deep emotions. Nelson also had the courage to choose to grow and learn. And I am so proud of the man my grandpa was. So skydiving, eh? I tell you, Nelson watched those canopies in the air for as long as they've been up there. He always wanted to be up there with them. Well, at 80, right? 80. He finally gave it a go. And then he gave it a go 13 more times just to be sure. Honestly, Grandpa should have been in the sky flying on his own decades earlier. He was absolutely meant to fly, and he found the same peace and surrender in the sky that I do. He would have fit in with all of the other skydivers too. We only seem to come in variations of strong personality. So once I started jumping, I remember telling him how I wished he could have started jumping young enough to be up there on his own too. And Grandpa just said he was grateful to be there at all. In fact, Nelson was just grateful for everything that came into his life, and he taught us all to be grateful as well. And so it's with gratitude that I'll finish. Gratitude for my grandpa. Gratitude for everything he gave to us with so much courage and the strongest love imaginable. Thank you, Grandpa.
I am Deborah Cameron Bennis. It does say Venice, typo error, and that's quite all right. I answer to lots of names, right? I am honored today to be here to share the special memories between Nelson and my father, my mother, my brothers, my family, and myself. So from our family to yours. Friendship is initiated in adolescence, or friendships that are initiated in adolescence are said to come and be formed with like-minded peers, which they reciprocate the traits of giving and sharing and frankness and supportiveness and spontaneity. And this is certainly true between the friendship between my father, Laverne Cameron, and Nelson Drozdowich. As adolescents, the friendship started in Cloverdale, and you've heard about the Cloverdale side, and stayed true and strong as married men and family men. The four friends, Gilda, Nelson, Vern, and Cecile, knit our families together to ensure the memories that we hold deep in our hearts are there forever. Nelson the storyteller is a term of endearment that I used for Nelson. Through the warm and conversational Christmas letters or emails with wishes for Easter, jokes, reminders to contact him, I looked forward to reading his latest tale, mostly tales. As I prepared to write this, I actually was cleaning out my office, and I came across a Christmas letter from 2013 to Mum. And so I quote from this Christmas letter. The trees in the green belt of the back of our house have grown over to 100 feet and shaded our orchard, so from 18, we are down to 3 apple trees, and they are having a really hard time competing. The others died of chainsaw disease and are now smoke wood for sausage and fish. We recycle everything, and yes, we are donators, and so should you be, right, for the organ donations. Then he goes on to talk about the abundant garden, especially the squash, which he shared with Nicolette. And Gilda, you had gone through that scare that perhaps there was breast cancer in that year. And so he writes, Gilda's baking, making many pots of stew and keeping the birds fed, especially the 5 hummers who have overwintered. Then he states, 6 black bears this year. The cubs are so cute. Till you see them tear your grapes and your corn and your apple trees apart, then all I can see is black bear sausage. And of course, sausage wood was also referred to previously in the letter. He also shared that he and Gilda cut the grass like hockey players. Gilda's been out for 2 minutes and needs a rest, so Nelson jumps off the bench and he takes over. Works for us. And that's how he concluded it. So words from my brother. I have 2 of them. My youngest one is Dean. As my brother recalls, as a young boy on Boxing Day, our final visit was always Nelson and Gilda's. And he said no matter the time of day or night, Nelson always greeted us with a warm smile that he always had. The conversations enveloped stories to share, laughter, good homegrown food, and plans of times together. The times together. They continued in later life. They were snowbirds down in Yuma together. And in the calls and the faxes that came back to me from these trips, my parents will always update us about the times with Nelson and Gilda. So one really sticks in my mind, and it's really foremost in my mind because, shall we say, it's an agree to disagree moment in their friendship. So they're discussing driving their motorhome down over the passes in the snow, getting down to Yuma. And Nelson says, you need to deflate the tires when in the snow, for if you've driven as much as I have, delivering things, you would know this. Well, my dad was not only a heavy-duty mechanic, but an auto mechanic. And he wrote, he was one of the ones that was the team for the fleet division in TELUS. He designed the fleet vehicles, and he was also their licensee upgrader. So with a man with that background, I remember him saying, this does not ring true, Nelson. And you don't underinflate the tires. Of course, neither man ever conceded that there was a different opinion that perhaps that they could look at. But it didn't matter to their friendship. It did not cause any fracture whatsoever. Also, he goes on to say, as we know, Nelson was agile and he was athletic, and that segues into two memories that our family holds dear. So Nelson was riding his bike down in Yuma, and he took a really bad fall. And apparently it happened, my dad told me, on a busy street. Now, Mom and Dad were really, really worried about him, and thankfully the injuries were not that severe, but they could have been worse. So Dad's comment was he didn't know why Nelson had chosen that route, because he wasn't a young man anymore, right? But Nelson thought of age quite differently. So my brother Dennis, my middle brother, has asked me to read these words to you. My brother Dennis wanted to share this story to validate this point. Nelson and Gilda have always been friends and family to the Camerons for an eternity, and they always have big, beautiful smiles for all of us. And our father said Nelson is a character. An example of this, our parents' 50th wedding anniversary. Now, this is in 2002. So keep in mind, Nelson's now 72 years old. My brother is 45 years old. So Nelson looks at with that gleam in his eye, and he says to my brother, "Can you jump the fence?" And so I looked at the fence, and then I looked at Nelson, and he goes jogging by, and wow, he jumps it like nothing, writes my brother. I stood there, put my hands up, looked at my dad, and my dad said, "Yep, that's Nelson." Right? So Denny wants to thank you, Gilda, and the family for sharing Nelson with us and us kids, right? My parents and us kids. So at that same anniversary, Gilda and Nelson, not surprisingly, brought homegrown food in a basket. And they used that food for a story. And the story was based on life, marriage, friendship, and humor. To me, that's the essence of these couples and their friendship. My brothers, my children, Scott and Kelly, my husband Wayne, and myself are forever appreciative to you, Gilda and Nelson, for the time and love you gave my mom after my dad passed away in 2011. Nelson's calls for updates regarding my mother and her journey with dementia were frequent. And I can't count the times you came to visit her, always with a bouquet of flowers from your garden. Nelson and you would take her out for drives, and you invited her out to your house once for a sleepover. And you then invited her to a church service the next morning. So this was her telling me. She said, she laughed and she said, "It was a little bit too noisy for me." Now, she was a Catholic, so you understand the difference in the services. But when I was looking for a new facility for Mom in her journey of dementia, Nelson advised me. With firsthand knowledge of him and Gilda going to the several facilities out here in Abbotsford, because they frequently not only visited my mom, but all their friends that lived in facilities. He said, "I'm going to give you an assessment." He gave me the good, he gave me the bad, and he allowed me to use that knowledge to diligently find a place in Langley, close to me, 5 minutes away instead of Abbotsford, for my mom. July 19th, 2016, Mum and I had the wonderful opportunity of seeing Nelson and Nicolette and you, Melissa Sue, where we met, a skydive we came out to watch. In the pictures I took that day, the joy in the faces, along with Gilda's and my mum, reflected the pride they shared of their husband, their father, their grandpa, their lifelong friend. And this is the legacy that Nelson has woven. He exuded empathy and generosity and kindness and steadfastness, as we say, a little bit stubborn, right? But in the right way. Work ethic, self-determination, coupled with humor, wit, an impish smile, love of music, especially his harmonica, and love of those he had in his life. I'm so thankful I got out in June and came to visit you in the new place. Now's my moment. When I left, I was absolutely enveloped with this wonderful, generous friendship that they have had around me. I'll also miss his calls asking for family updates and imparting his wisdom, his humor, the way that he signaled those calls was, okay, you've provided me enough information, so goodbye. That was it. Not another word. Goodbye. And every Christmas when I go past the Salvation Army bells, Nelson's voice is in my ear as I stop to give a donation because I hear him say it's the right thing to do. So I can only imagine, Gilda, what you're going through without your soulmate, and what the family is going through without Grandpa Droz. And although you're all very conscious of the fact that he's in a better place with the pain that he was going through, doesn't make it easier. And I promise I'll phone. I'll keep giving you updates and expect updates back. All right? You've got the great grandbaby, and I've got my two that they're like, the last two are like this days apart or months apart. I will keep you updated, Gilda. And I truly hope that he actually wrote the book he talked about all the time. I hope it's written down. And because his life was brimful, and that ourselves can only aspire to accomplish if only a little part of what he experienced. So to end, I am sure we will all think of Nelson on those gray days. Just the thought of him lightening our day from the memory of his sparkling eyes and impish smile and optimistic view of life. Thanks for letting me speak today.
To Melissa, Sue, and Debbie, thank you. Now, those who are watching don't realize that everyone here has an order of service. And on the order of service, the next thing is the opportunity for anyone to share this open mic and share their memory. Have you thought about it? Do you have an experience that you would like to share? You can stand and use your outdoor voice or come forward to the mic, but this is your time.
Hello, my name is Tom Hall. My wife Andrea is in the audience with us. We've known Gilda and Nels for 55 years. And I want to tell you how we met. I've made notes so that I don't forget. In August 1969, we left Scotland, and after 10 days by ship and train, we arrived at the Abbotsford Hotel. We didn't know a soul and walked up Essendine Avenue to explore the town. At the Abbotsford brokerage storefront, we stopped to look at the houses and the photographs, when someone approached us from behind and put his arms around both of us. And he said, "Hello, folks. You new in town? I'm Nelson." Now, for a Scotsman, a dour Scotsman, that was quite an advance. Someone come up and would actually speak to us. Warm, welcoming Nelson introduced himself and took us inside to hear our story and to show us maps of the town and local features. We had a long, welcome chat, finding out about the area's schools. I'm a school teacher. Nelson was on the board. And local history. Nelson's enthusiasm was contagious, and we were swept along by his kind gesture. We proceeded on with our walk, armed with knowledge and eager to see the town. Later that afternoon, whilst in our hotel room, the phone rang. "Front desk, call for you from Mr. Drozdowich." Nelson invited us for dinner, came and picked us up in the car, and we went back to Marshall Road, where Gilda had prepared a delicious meal, and we met the famous five: Simone, Susan, Diane, Dale, and Tina. And they were delightful. We didn't have any kids. We were newly married. So Nelson and Gilda's kindness was really appreciated by us. I remember we had, from the garden, corn on the cob with butter. First time Andrea and I had ever had that. And the kids laughed. You know, we have it all the time type of thing, but we really enjoyed it. We couldn't have had a more friendly, heartwarming welcome to Abbotsford. In later years, and it sounds like this is common for Nelson, Nelson would phone us on that anniversary, the day in August, and say, "You remember when?" and welcome us again to Canada. As we settled in and living in a new country, Gilda and Nels graciously included us in their social circle. They made it easy for us to find new friends and to meet new people. We felt like one of the family, or some of the family. With their move to Old Claiborne Road came the swimming pool for the kids and more invites for us. Pool parties and swimming with everyone, making us feel at home. Gilda and Nelson went to Hawaii with the friends, and we babysat. We didn't have any kids. We didn't know if we could do it, but Gilda's organization, everybody in that family knew what to do, how to do it, and said it's okay. Andrea remembers Tina and a dress and trying to tell her that it's too big for you, Tina. And she said, no, just use a pin. Well, it turned out to be Diane's dress, and Tina eventually put it on, but Andrea admired Tina's drive. And where do you think that came from? Andrea remember, oh, that's, sorry, I beg your pardon. In 1970, Nelson found us a house on Beaver. And I don't think he would mind us telling you that it was really expensive. Brand new, $13,400. Okay, so he looked after us, and then he found us one on Woodland Street. That's where our first son Cameron was born. Nelson was always on the lookout for us. He found us 5 acres out in Brookside, in Mount Lehman. That was in '75. We built a new house there, and he told us exactly where to build it and why. And I really appreciated it because I knew nothing about houses. He put us right. We built in the corner of the 5 acres where the view was, and he said, people will buy this house because of that. Right? And we appreciated all of that. And he was doing it out of friendship. That was the first of our Christmas tree farm. We ended up with 22 planted acres of a Christmas tree farm. And Andrea and I developed a rhododendron garden around the house. Some of Andrea's friends, the UCW club, had a garden tour. Could they include it in the tour? Yeah, sure, no problem. Nelson, without telling us, went further than that. He went to the real estate board, and I've got to give you the official title here. The Real Estate Board Large Space Residential Garden Competition. Fraser Valley, I guess. And he entered the garden in the competition. We had built a stream through the middle, and it recycled with a pump and all that sort of stuff. And we still proudly look at the winning plaque and photograph on the wall in our house. Nelson Pusha, okay? Over the years, we were never forgotten by Gilda and Nelson. They subdivided and built Boulanger, and we enjoyed many invites. After Gilda's delicious suppers, Nelson would proudly tour us through his vegetable and fruit garden, which supported the family and half the neighborhood as well. He was a master provider with his green thumb, and whenever we left, he'd have garden products for us to take home. This kindness prevailed too when he and Gilda came to our house with similar gifts, excuse me, and usually a bottle of his infamous homemade wine. Those people who are laughing know exactly what that wine was like. The Drozdowiches were guides to us in many ways, not only in real estate, but in life. Their volunteering with the Salvation Army kettle prompted me to get involved too, and Nell said, you go to the liquor store and embarrass your friends. And I did for many years. And that's why I started donating blood too, following his example. He also served the Cyrus Center, and though he always got my donation, he couldn't persuade me to parachute jump like he did into his 95th year, if you can believe that, right? Nelson was a dear friend and mentor over the years. I didn't always agree with him, but admired his conviction and dedication to being the best person that he could be. We will miss him. To cap this off, I've got a story that I find fascinating. In our Canada immigration interview in the UK, the Canadian government agent, once he said, yeah, you're going, said to us how much we would enjoy our new country and how we would be welcomed excuse me, by friendly and generous people. And who are Nelson and Gilda. They fulfilled that prediction for 2 new Canadians, and for that we're forever grateful to them. I'll miss Nelson Drozdowich.
Our thanks to you. We look forward to you coming.
Hey everybody, my name is Jordan Drozdowich, and Nelson was my great uncle. I didn't really get to know my grandpa Gordon, his brother, very well because he passed away when I was 4. But yeah, Nelson, I always looked at him as a grandpa to me, and I just want to keep it nice and short and share a little story. He would smoke sausages every year, and I like to hunt, and him and I would always communicate via email. You know, I'd send him hunting photos, and he'd give me updates on life, and I decided to start carrying on that family tradition. And so about a year ago, I brought him down some links, and they're staying at the manor there, so they didn't really have much of a kitchen. And so I gave him the sausages, and he's like, you know, Jordan, we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner here. And I was like, I know, but you know, maybe one day you'll feel snackish. And so that was about it. And next day I get a phone call. Jordan, the sausage. How much garlic did you put in there? And how much pork fat did you use? And I was like, well, I used about 25% pork fat. And he's like, okay, that's about right. But was it fatty enough? And so I'm really glad he was always very strict with me with the sausage making, because I'll hopefully keep on the good quality. Anyways, thanks everybody.
Thank you, thank you. The back row is doing well. Somebody else is coming. Oh, you're not. Okay. You're escaping.
Hi everyone, my name is Jory, and I was Nelson's neighbor for my whole life. So he is Gramp Draws to me, and I'd just like to share from the heart just a few thoughts that come to mind in his honor and memory. Ever since I was a little girl, Nelson and Gilda were anchors in my life. I remember they'd go on their motorhome and I'd feed their birds, and they'd have me over for a game of Yahtzee and something nice to drink like a cranberry juice. But as I got older and went off to university and came back, their loyalty and their dedication to every single person they know is what stays with me. Grandpa Draws did convince me to jump out of a plane once, and he kept on going. Maybe I'll do it again. But I think that each of us, as we leave here today, should truly think about what we can do to live a little bit more like Nelson, be a little bit more charitable, a little bit more involved and looking people in the eye and engaged in the community. Like, he was unashamed, unafraid, unembarrassed, and he cared and he had conviction. So let's all level up, because he's just awesome and I miss him. But what I'd like to say is, especially to the Drozdowich family, my parents, Bob and Elizabeth, and I had the honor to come be with you for a few moments that final Christmas, and we shared a rum and eggnog. And Nelson looked me in the eye and he said, "Take care, Jory." Those were his final words to me, with great love. So I think he would say to all of us today, take care, and let's take good care of each other. Thank you, everyone. I miss you, Grandpa.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Is there anyone else? Following this service, there is a reception. And while we are there, the opportunity for you to meet and mingle and share with one another the continued stories. And now, from Nelson's Bible, the 23rd Psalm is going to be read by Danielle.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My second reading. I'm a granddaughter, by the way, Danielle. Diane's my mother. The second reading here is a poem written by my grandpa, and it is called The Last Word. Each year we leave hope to return. Never do we our bridges burn. For if this trail we should retrace, we would come back to a good, clean place. Our lives have been an open book for all to read and have a look. We fear not what someone should find. Our hearts are clean, also our mind. Should we be asked this life depart, we leave this world with a warm, clean heart. And look not back what should have been. I think we left the closet clean. For those that now behind us stand, watching the water leave the sand, the tide will leave and will return. What light will you now leave to burn? We will be judged by God, not man. He gave us life as only he can. We will not get an hour's reprieve when finally he asks for us to leave. We fought the fight, gave it our best, did no harm, so we shall rest. Now those left here are now to read. Take the torch and from him lead. We hope our life to you has taught the war is only won when fairly fought. Let it be known that the world is a better place for having I been there. Nelson Nicholas Drozdowich, Gramp Draws. Thank you.
We have been in the presence of great giftedness this morning. And now with our thanks to Lacey Drozdowich, we are going to remember Nelson in pictures. Grudges, resentments, frustration, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too will your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. So what will matter? On a day like this, how will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. Not your success, but your significance. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when you are gone. What will matter is how long you will be remembered, by whom, and for what. Living a life that matters doesn't just happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. Nelson Drozdowich chose to live a life that matters, and this world is the better for it. I'm going to invite Nicolette to come now and lead us in our closing song.
I'm here to sing a song, but before I do that, I thought I'd do a little something of my own, just like my grandpa would do. Need a little work to catch up to how good he was, but anyways, in the words of Taylor Swift, I would like to first say, never be so kind you forget to be clever, but never be so clever you forget to be kind. And that's truly a lesson he taught us. Now, if you'll join me in singing one of his favorite songs, inside of the little booklet that you got, there is words to one of the favorite songs he would always sing with me. Every time we sang it, I think it came out in a different order, and whoever was ahead of the other would just follow the other, and we just made it work every time. And it was our song. And it's very fitting for the way he lived his life. When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. When I grew up and fell in love, I asked my sweetheart, what lies ahead? Will there be rainbows day after day? Here's what my sweetheart said. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. Now I have children of my own. They ask their mother, what will I be? Will I be handsome? Will I be rich? I tell them tenderly, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera.
To everyone online or in this chapel, thank you for coming. And as your future is still before us, may God bless you and keep you in his care.